Hey everybody, I'm S.A. Bass Collins in for this week's Written on the Edge, Season 10, Episode 31 interview. We will be getting to know Dr. Kara Zajac better and talking about your recent release, The Significance of Curly Hair. So
Hi.
let's get to know our guest. Kara Zajac is a freelance writer, chiropractor, mother of a daughter, wife, entrepreneur, musician, and diehard romantic. She earned her bachelor's degree from the State University of New York and a doctor of chiropractic degree from Life College of Chiropractic. For the last 20 years, Kara has maintained a private wellness practice in Dawsonville, Georgia, where she helps people revitalize their lives by healing the brain and body naturally through chiropractic care, energy work, and Braincore Neurofeedback. I'm going to get to know about that. All right.
Yes,
She is a
good one.
member of the Creative Writing Workshop as well as the National Writers Union and was awarded the IPPY Silver. I love saying IPPY, the IPPY Silver Award for transformational nonfiction. She resides in North Georgia mountains with her wife Kim and daughter Sanaya May. Kara can usually be found at home in the kitchen and enjoys sipping wine while hanging her feet off the dock. I think they wrote a song about that.
They did. That was the dock of the bay. Mine is
Yeah, yeah,
actually the dock
yeah,
of the lake, but
yeah.
it's
Well,
the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, you can play it and pass it
Yeah.
off.
Right. It's still
One
good
body of
either way.
water, just like another.
Yeah.
All right. So, Kara, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you decide to set pen to paper or do the digital pokey pokey
Okay.
to do writing when you're obviously have nothing else to do in life?
So, my book bases around my grandmother and my very close relationship with my grandmother when I was growing up. And she knew I was a writer long before I was a writer. And she asked me when I was 14 if I would ever write about her because this little boy had written a story in the local newspaper about his grandfather. And at 14, I was very young and cocky and thought I knew it all. And I said, well, you've never done anything. What would there be to write about? Which is the worst thing you could ever, especially to someone you and I just saw the gleam go out of her eye, and I was like, oh, of all the
You're
things
all
I
walk
wish,
walk into
yes,
this.
yes, I wish I could take that back, and now I have a 15-year-old daughter, so I know that age. I'm like, oh, I'm getting it back now.
Yeah, right, right.
So I said that to her. So always in the back of my mind, there was always, you should write that book about Graham. You should write that book about Graham. You should write it. And honestly, I was a terrible writer until she died. I got the call that she was dying, and I had to rush home to Boston. And on the plane, just the enormity of that grief just flew out of me, and I just started typing, and it never stopped. So the whole book just came out, um, which I wish that wasn't the story. I wish I could say I do 500 words a day, just like Ernest Hemingway, but it took this enormous mountain of grief to push it out of me. And now I'm a very good writer. I was a terrible writer, and now I'm a good writer.
Well, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So,
That, there's no dark teenage angsty poetry in your background or
well, yes, of course, but
Oh,
that,
okay.
yeah, yeah. Doesn't everybody have that? Yeah, for
Right,
sure.
right.
Yeah, and sometimes even adult angsty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, oh, yeah, true, true,
yeah.
true. Although lately mine have sounded more like Dr. Seuss than anything else. But so I don't
Which
know
is,
if I'm regressing or not.
adulting isn't always that great.
I know that's
Yeah,
true.
it's
That's
tough
true.
for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. So let's talk about the novel, The Significance of Curly Hair.
Okay.
So what is significance?
So it's a story of my grandmother, and it's also the story of um, me thinking that because she was a traditional woman, she raised children, she stayed home. I kind of felt like she was held down by her husband and by society. When she was young, she got her college degree and she had a car and she made money. And then she married my grandfather, and it was like I felt like her whole life stopped. And then she just had babies and he died and she suffered. And as a young gay girl, I saw her and I was like, God, who wants that? Oh, I don't. So unintentionally, I was trying to live my life opposite of her. I went out and I got my doctorate degree and I have my own job and I make good money. And there is no one that's going to tell me what I can buy and what I can't buy.
Right.
Um, And then as I aged and as I saw her aging, and then as she died, I realized, maybe that was her dream. Maybe raising people to be good people, people that know how to love and empathize, and maybe the things that we pass on to our children are just as important as that other stuff of being independent and making money. And so the book is really about what she really did that was huge, like how she could make, a life of garbage because she suffered. She had a nervous breakdown. My grandfather died. She was left with four kids and no money, and they all turned out great and successful and happy, so she knew how to just thrive with nothing, which is really something,
That's a
and
talent. That's a
yeah,
talent.
and you can't learn that in a book.
No.
So the book is really about me appreciating her, and then also me being able to see that, maybe there's more than one way. Maybe you can be gay, maybe you can still have a family, maybe you can be independent, maybe you can still be attached to your family and have all of those things and thrive together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason it's called The Significance of Curly Hair is you can see I have curly
Yeah.
hair. My grandmother had this flat, fine, straight hair, and she always wanted curly hair. She always talked about it. My sister and I, she'd make us curl her hair, or she'd do it with curlers or perms, or always this enormous focus on having curly hair. And my grandfather was not a very good husband, and he was not a very good father, but he had curly hair. So
Ah.
I think she married him for more than just the curly hair, but that was some of it. And all four of their kids got very straight hair, but the grandchildren, we got, yes.
You just tell her
So,
you're saving it for the best part, you
right,
know?
right. So that's why it's called The Significance of Having Curly Hair, because she's like, look what I did for you. I did this for you. Don't you dare straighten it. No way. Yes. So yeah, and today it's raining in Georgia, so it's like extra super crazy curly.
Oh, well,
Mm,
there you go.
yes,
That's just
yes,
nature's way of saying, we got your back.
right, right. So the
Uh,
book is it's about my grief. It's about me overcoming grief, but it's also about love and it's about family and it's about connection and it's about how we do stupid things as kids and we learn
oh, yeah, the
and
folly of youth.
yeah, so it's a good full circle book and it's very relatable to a lot of people. If you've ever loved a grandmother or if you've loved a grandfather or you felt disconnected
Your
from your
elders, yeah.
yeah, and then got reconnected and maybe learned a lesson that you thought you knew when you were 15.
So the burning question, I think some of our viewers and listeners may be asking or screaming into did she ever tell her before she went?
So, my mom called me and my grandma was in a coma. She had fallen and
Oh, okay.
she was bleeding from the
Yeah,
inside her head. So I hopped on the plane and I called when I was on the plane and my grandma was in the coma and my mom held the phone to her ear. And I said, Grandma, I'm writing your book. And I got to tell her.
that's great.
And she couldn't talk, but her heart rate went from 68 to 72 when she heard that. So yes,
People do. It's a known thing, that
yeah,
even when you're in a coma, you are aware of things
yeah,
happening, so.
yeah. And I try not to cry every time I say that, but ooh, it gets me,
Oh yeah. Yeah. And well, it's a real moment and the resonation from it, the ring that it has in our lives, I don't think is ever ending. I think it goes to the outs and it comes back in and it's something that becomes a part of us
for
as
sure.
we continue in life.
Yeah.
My husband has a grandmother who's very similar. She was born in the late 1800s. She lived to be 113, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
she used to go to school on horseback with a shotgun to fight off the
Oh,
bears or the cougars. Yeah. I mean, this woman she was amazing. She came up with a whole,
cool.
Edwardian Gibson hair kind of thing, and then which she absolutely hated and wanted to like. And so there's wonderful pictures of her in a man's suit with a cigar, and just, I mean, she's just an amazing lady. And then I
Yeah.
found out in the history of his family, the females are like this. They're very strong-willed, very,
Yeah.
they just have a drive.
Sure.
And when you write these things, and I even told him, I said I want to write a cozy mystery series as his Grammy is the 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 Miss Marple of my series,
Oh
because I
yeah,
think that would be great.
for sure. For
Because
sure. Sounds awesome.
she had a gal pal named Maud, and they would just do all kinds of goofy stuff together. So I just thought this is fodder for a great cozy mystery series.
Yes. And anyone named Maud, for
I
sure. For
know
sure.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
getting back to your book, what is the thing that was most revelatory to you about writing about your grandmother that kind of came from out of nowhere and surprised you? Was there anything like that?
Oh, yes. There's the big one. The big so my wife is the oldest of six kids, and she's always wanted a family, and she was one of, I think sometimes with girls when you're young, you're expected, oh yes, I'm gonna get married and have kids and do this. And as a kid, I slept in the same bed with my grandmother till I was 9. We were like super close. But I thought that wrecked her. So I was never one that wanted, not that I love kids. It wasn't in my plan that I was
Right,
gonna
right.
have. And
It's not in a lot of queer people.
right, yeah. And I thought you couldn't be queer and have a, because kids need a father and they need a mother and all that crap that was burned into my head
Hmm.
throughout my childhood. And at the end of this book, I see that my grandmother raised 4 girls with no father, and they all turned great.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I learned about the circle of life and how we pass things on to children, and how, when our elders get old, we end up becoming the parent, and there's that circle as we shift. Like my parents now are in their 70s, and I'm starting to see that shift where I'm becoming more the parent and taking care of them.
Hmm.
And
Girl, I'm on that
yeah,
same train.
yeah. So, yeah, what surprised me about this book is at the end, I'm like, the only thing I want to do is have a baby. Yes. And it was because of the loss of my grandmother and realizing that we can raise a child and instill the same values, and that's passing her down the line to
Yeah,
next
absolutely.
generation. And
Yeah,
and there's coolness in that.
it keeps your grandmother alive.
Yeah. So it's just,
Absolutely.
and the cool thing about it is that we were able to use, my wife's brother. So Sandy Mae is part of both of us, and it's really neat.
That's lovely. I love
Yeah.
that story.
So
And the thing I think I love about it most is that, there are studies that show that children of queer families do generally do much better than some of their straight counterparts in those kinds of environments. So, and I think it really stems from the fact that when queer people decide to have a child, whether it's through adoption or, a surrogate or insemination, in another form, um, I think that it's very, very deliberate on the queer
yes,
family's part. Whereas sometimes in heterosexual marriages, it's more happenstance, or
sure. Yeah.
shotgun wedding is a thing because of it.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I just think that when we have kids, we're a bit more intentional about it, and we're much
Yeah.
more um
It's thought
prone.
of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My when I married my husband, he had kids, from a previous marriage, and now we have grandkids and everything, and I just love that aspect that,
Yeah.
my granddaughter, came to us and said, I've got a girlfriend, and so it's lovely that, and
Yeah.
she and I used to go to San Francisco Pride all the time, and so it
Oh,
was
that's cool.
wonderful that I got to share that with her, and it's made us
Mhm.
close. So yeah, it's just, I think for queer families, it just cuts a little different. And I
For
think
sure.
that's to the child's benefit too, because
Yeah.
we really, really want them here.
And there's so much love.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
much love.
yeah, and so much joy and laughter, and that's the
Yeah.
other part too. You say,
And
yeah,
dancing.
yeah, exactly.
Yes,
But
and dancing.
like you say, learning to still use humor, to get through the grief and stuff. Were there stories that you didn't know about your grandmother that you discovered in the course of writing this that maybe amused you or surprised you?
I had to interview my mom and her 3 sisters. So there were a lot of things I did learn about my grandmother. Um, that, she had a nervous
What
breakdown
was her
and
name? Let's get her name out there.
well, my grandmother's name was Senya, and my
Okay.
daughter is Senya May after my grandmother.
Okay.
Um, when she had a nervous breakdown, it was almost like she decided to just not worry about stress. And by not worrying about stress, she just became kind of childlike, but in an awesome way.
Hmm.
Um, so, let's say they didn't have a lot of food. She would like go over to the refrigerator and do a little scoop-de-doo dance and open it up and find something in there and make something magical out of one can of tuna for 5 kids. She just had this really magical way. And I think that had to do with her overcoming so much stress, um, that she just chose not to let it affect her anymore because there's nothing you can do about it. And all right, this is just what we're going to do.
Yeah. No, I love
So,
that.
yeah, so writing the book, I learned a lot of those things about her. And I also learned a lot more of her hardships, which really made me appreciate her so much more.
Hmm.
That um, I always thought she didn't get to achieve her dreams, but she was really so strong and she was so steadfast and she was so, you can do anything you want. Don't let anything stop you. And she was really that driving force without being over the top pushy. She was really like under the radar. So
Right.
yeah, so writing the book was a total joy. It was a total mess because I was grieving, but I felt so much more complete at the end.
Yeah. And I think that it also, what I get from my husband telling a story about his grandmother, and then, listening to people like you who write things about elder women and stuff, is the resiliency of these women
Yes.
and just how out of thin air it seems that they can still manage to take the next step forward and
Yes.
still create an environment that is nurturing, even though what they have personally may not be so nurturing.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a wonderful thing to put out there, not only for the young girls to see, but also the young boys to
Mhm.
understand
Yeah.
that nature of that, don't you think?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I have been very surprised. I thought my book would mostly attract women, but I sell it in my office and I've sold it just to as many, not even gay men, but straight men, reading the book, and it's helped them get through some of their grief from Vietnam or remembering their grandmothers, or there's been just so many stories. And it's like, wow, like sometimes I feel like my scope is so limited, but really everybody has that love story. Everybody, and sometimes it brings it up for them that they've forgotten, or and it's so neat to see how something like that makes us all connected in some way.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
we live in this world that I feel like people are trying to make us disconnected. But the core of all of us, we are very connected as people, as humans, you know. And we have similar experiences, and it starts with love, and
Yeah. And I think, the latest craze on a lot of social media is be your authentic self. And I think that's a almost a sad indictment of our society that you have to be reminded to be
right.
authentic,
Yeah.
because we have so many influencers, which I hate
Mhm.
that term, but we have so many influencers who
Yeah.
it's all performative. Everything that they do is performative. And I think that, a lot of the social media, which I turn more antisocial than anything, because I don't think it really gives, especially our youth nowadays, I don't think it gives them good social skills. It actually disassociates them from
Yeah.
their
It's
social
isolating.
interact. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's isolating.
You know,
And
and
they don't even realize it.
and I think that stories like yours,
Hmm.
and even, in my goofy way, thinking of writing a cozy mystery about but I thought it's a great way to sneak in all the funny stories that happened to her
Yes.
and Maud,
Yeah.
and that I
Yeah.
think would be really, really great to tell, and still weave them in to kind of keep her
Yeah.
memory alive and
Alive.
put it somewhere. And I think that it's important because I think in this day and age, people don't really understand the value of good storytelling. I think they long for it, but I don't think they know how to find it,
Hmm.
which is one of the reasons why we do this podcast, because we like talking to people like you
Yeah.
who say, hey, and I always encourage queer people, write. Right, 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 right,
Yeah.
right. Because you may think nobody else would want to read it, but you'd be surprised. There is
Yeah.
more, we share more in common than we think we do. And don't
Sure.
you feel like books like yours give that opportunity and that permission to people say, hey, she wrote about this and,
Yeah.
maybe I should, kind of thing.
Well, and yeah, because I think especially in literature, there's a big push for fiction.
Hmm.
And I won't go into why that is, but real stories matter. And I think
Hmm.
real stories have a different kind of connection. And writing this book for me was so cathartic. It was so healing. And I've seen the healing people reading it. So yeah, if you write your own story, yes, get those stories out there because they do matter. And it helps us remember, which I think remembering the past also helps us in the future because all the things that are happening have happened before and people have made it through it. And sometimes we get in that isolation, like, oh, we're never going to get through this. This 4 years, this whatever. Oh, how is it going to be? And it will be, and it will be fine. And,
Hmm.
we can read about ways that it has been done before, and we can come up with new ways that it will be done again.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, and every time I have a conversation like this, like I'm having with you, it reminds me of that. I go to that line because a lot of people who think maybe, oh, should I write about my life or who would care, that kind of thing, the imposter syndrome kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I always go back to the line from the movie October Sky, which is one of my all-time favorite films, and Homer Hickam, who it's about, played by Jake Gyllenhaal,
Mhm.
he ended up becoming a rocket boy for NASA, designing that stuff. But his teacher was a woman who was single, and she's played by Laura Dern, and she ends up, trying to encourage Jake's character and his friends, the little four um, quad little group that he hangs out with, and she tries to convince them to go into the science fair because they have this interest in rockets and stuff like that. It was at the time of Sputnik where it happened and
Right.
everything. And I'm getting to it, why I'm telling you this. Um, and she said to him at one point, he almost gives up on the dream of going into the science fair, which will take him on the journey to becoming a real rocket science. And he said, she gets a little angry with him. And he says, well, why does it matter to you? And she said, because if I can get you to do this and you do it and do it as well as I think you will, then it will have said something about me that my life mattered. I did something that really helped, you know, and
Uh,
and I love that sentiment. And you end up finding out she gets Hodgkin's disease and she dies at a very young age. But in the
mm,
end, they show actual film footage, old Super 8 film footage
yeah.
of or 16 millimeter, I guess it was. And they show film and you actually get to see her. And I love that that got captured
Yeah, that's
for
awesome.
eternity
Mhm.
because here's a woman who was in the coal mines of West Virginia, and when you see these women who really make impactful moments in
Yeah.
history and do so quietly,
Yeah.
and I just love that. I just,
It's
that's
huge.
it's one of the things that warms my heart,
Sure.
and I just love stories, hearing stories like yours, with your
Yeah.
grandmother and stuff, because I think we need more of that
Yeah.
in
Well,
this world.
I also think that I think that if you're a person that doesn't have that in your life, when you read a story like that, it touches you in some way too. And we
Right.
never really know how we're touching other people, but I think reading and storytelling and even just tales and it's a way that we can reach out and say, "Hey, guess what? I'm here and
Yeah.
I'm here." And we're in this together and there is a sense of togetherness with that matters.
And sometimes those stories fill holes we didn't know we had
Yeah, for
emotionally.
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And just it's a sense of completeness that comes. And I think in today's society with, 5-second video clips and having to keep up with this and that and numbers and likes, and I think sometimes that stuff gets lost,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is the beauty of storytelling and really hitting deep within people. you know.
Okay, so the note I have here that piqued my interest the most is, can we ask about the promise you made to your grandmother and why?
The promise I made to my grandmother, yes. We did touch on this a little bit, but as she was in her coma, I said, Graham, when I was 14, you asked me if I would ever write about you. And I said, you never did anything, but I'm writing the book now. I'm writing it, and I promise you, I'm going to get it out there. Your life mattered. You molded me. You molded all of us. It was because of you that I'm this. Um, she couldn't respond, but she heard me. But that was the promise, and that's why I'm pushing this so hard. It got
Oh yeah, you
released
got to
last
get it out
year.
there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and if you just write the story and then don't push it, then what's the point? Then if no one reads it, and it's actually touched a lot of people. It's done very well,
Hmm.
and um, I feel like every person that reads the book or hears about it,
Oh,
I'm sharing her with them. Mine wasn't like yours, but I feel like I got to live with yours. And
excellent.
that matters. That's how you're touching people in different ways. And the more people that hear her story, I know it's warming her heart, and she's up there, feeling that love and feeling that closeness and feeling like even though she's not physically here on the earth anymore, she's still here. She lives on. Her stories live on. Her way that she taught me is also teaching other people.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. I think like in the movie Coco, there's that moment where they say that, as long as someone's here to remember you, you still live on. And I really love that sentiment, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's almost incumbent upon us to make sure that we tell the stories of our
Mhm.
ancestors and our elders,
Yeah,
because those things are things that are valuable, no matter what age you're living in. There are still something you can glean from it that can be very, very rewarding, you know?
very true.
I
Very true.
love that. Is there anything I didn't think about asking you about the book that you'd like people to know?
Um, I think we covered a lot of the major themes.
Okay.
I think we covered a lot of the major themes.
All right. Are you ready for our get to know you questions?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
Okay. I promise to be gentle.
Okay, be gentle. Yes.
Okay. So, in Wandering into the Weeds, can you name a movie that was better than the book?
I cannot name it. I thought about that one, and because I'm writing the screenplay for Significance right now, yeah, the book's always better than the movie.
I think the only one.
And the reason that is because you see it with pictures. So
Hmm.
it can never be the same. So, of course, no, I don't like any of the movies better than the book because you get more in a book. But it's different with a movie and you get to show it in a different way.
They are different animals. I think the one that I do, well, there's two. I like the color purple because of all the visuals that I think enrich, but as you say, it can also limit what your imagination had
Right.
there. And I think fried green tomatoes is the other one,
Yeah.
you know. All right. So, which fictional character would you most like to be friends with?
Oh, that would probably be Alex from Orange is the New Black. Yes, I want to be her friend for sure.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm down with that.
Not in prison, not in
Well,
prison.
yeah. No, no, no.
When she's out of prison.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That part. Yeah. That part. Okay.
Mm.
What's the most fascinating fact that you know?
The most fascinating, well, I know a lot about the brain and the human body and healing from the inside out, which helps me win Scrabble all the time because I can use these big words and
Right.
my partners will be like, that's not, I'm like, oh no, it is. That's an organ or yeah. So I know a lot about the body brain connection and remarkably that comes into my writing and it's another way of healing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Love that. Okay. What was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school was actually band. I'm a rock and roll drummer. Um, I ended up being a chiropractor, but my first path was, no, I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to go tour the world. And um, so I loved being in the band and I loved being in the chorus and singing and writing music. And I still do that.
Mm.
I have an office and I tour with the Jesse Albright band on the side. We tour the Southeast. And so now I get to use like all sides of my brain, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
totally cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, before making a telephone call, do you rehearse what you're going to say?
Um, it depends who it is. Like if it's an uncomfortable conversation, then yes, I will, because I get a little fidgety and nervous. But like with you, no, I didn't rehearse what I was going to say because I felt like this was going to be kind of, more organic.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, what current event or causes are you most passionate about?
um, I'm passionate about kids. I'm passionate about kids being able to express themselves. Since I am a Braincore Neurofeedback practitioner, I deal with a lot of ADHD. I deal with a lot of PTSD. I deal with a lot of youth that have either gay issues or parental issues. And I'm passionate about allowing people to heal from the inside out without being suppressed by drugs. And I
Mm,
do a lot of that work here.
mhm.
Um, and I feel like, as a writer, when people read things, they get to heal. When they go to therapy, they get to heal. When they come into my office, they do get to talk. But when we do neurofeedback work, it's a way that you can heal without having to talk about it if it's too painful.
Mm, mm.
So, yes, I'm very passionate about that.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, if you could visit anywhere in the world, where would that be?
I really want to see the Egyptian pyramids before they go away.
Mm.
I have not gotten there. I really haven't made enough time yet, but that's one of my bucket list things. I really want to go inside one.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like it'd be cool, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it'd be cooler than what's outside because it's often very hot. And I hear
Well,
that we get to a certain point, it is a lot cooler.
yeah, so I don't know. That's something I've always wanted to do and haven't made it there yet, but yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you could see, oh, sorry, I already did that one. Who, if anyone, was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, that would be Helen Hunt. When I saw the first Twister movie, I was like, oh,
Be
the
still
way
my
she,
heart.
I know, I couldn't. I was like, oh my word. I was like, okay, yes, definitely Helen Hunt, and yeah, and still probably.
Yeah. All
If
right.
you're listening to this, call me right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, exactly. Have I got a role for you?
yeah.
Um, okay. So finally, what's your personal favorite recipe that you make, and are you willing to share it with us?
I will share it with you. Um, where I come from, spaghetti sauce is called gravy. We're very, Italian neighborhood. My recipe, I get I get very, very good comments from it all the time. And you have to use San Marzano tomatoes.
Yes.
I use about 5 cans of the Cento San Marzano, not the San Marzano like. They have to be the ones
The
that are
real,
from,
yeah.
yes,
Uh-huh.
from
Uh-huh.
from Mount Vesuvius. And I chop up 2 very large yellow onions and a whole pound of carrots and put it in olive oil and then throw in some basil, a little bit of hot pepper flakes, 2 leaves of mint, then the 5 cans, and then 1 spoonful of chicken bouillon,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and then cook it all for about 4 hours, and then use the immersion blender. Salt, pepper, it will be the best you've ever had. The no
There you
acid
go.
reflux. You make the meatballs, throw them in there, let them cook all day. You've got people in love with you
Right.
immediately.
Exactly. Exact
Mhm.
line forms to the left.
Yes, that's my best recipe.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. All right. So, let's talk about where do you have any gigs coming up, any readings, anything that you're doing that you want people to know, and where's the best place for them to find out what you're doing?
Okay, well, you can find out what I'm doing on my website, which is www.karazajac.com. Um, I will be doing a book club reading at Delaware Technical Institute in September. It's on September 11th at 7 o'clock. I think I'm gonna be there, but it's also gonna be on a Zoom call. And we're doing a book club for the significance of curly hair. It's their summer reading. Then I'm gonna be doing a couple events in Rehoboth Beach. Then on September 18th, I'm gonna be on another event, but it hasn't been worked out yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where's
Yeah,
the
but
best where's the best place to find all that?
Oh, well, you can find that on my website, www.karazajac.com. You can find the book here is on Amazon, right there. That's
Lovely.
what it looks like. Yeah, it's on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle. The Audible version it's out, but it hasn't been attached to Audible yet. They've been taking a long time, but that is very soon. And the girl who read the book for me, her name is Megan Kirby. She just did a fantastic job of reenacting my crazy family and our crazy accents and our crazy attitudes toward each other. She just really knocked it out of the park. So if you're a lover of audiobooks, she really nailed it.
Excellent. Yeah. Love that. All right.
Yeah.
Well, any final words of wisdom?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want words of wisdom from me? If everybody has a story, and real stories matter. And in this world of fiction, nonfiction, it may not seem as popular, but it really hits home in a very deep way. So write your story. Write that story that you have in you that, because don't be afraid, because it matters. It matters to someone that you don't even know.
Absolutely. Love that. All right, everybody. We'd like to send a huge thank you to Kara Zajac. We at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. If you enjoy hearing about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment media, please like, subscribe, and so you get all the alerts for the new episodes. This show is produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listening stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com and tune in next week for your queer media fix. Bye now.
Thank you.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.